Another week, another Blue Devil victory. Your Duke Blue Devils are currently 4-0. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. I'm your host, Brian Kennedy, alongside my co-hosts Josh Cox, Scott Medlin, and Jamie Holton. As I stated, the Blue Devils continue their winning ways, heading to Murfreesboro, winning 45-17. And before we give our thoughts on all things Duke football, we got to hear from the man himself. Post-game, here's one Manny Diaz after the big win.
Proud of our team, proud of how we handled a week where it'd be easy to lose your concentration, focus, and attention. You're coming on the road to play a team who had been struggling, and everybody knows what we have coming up next in conference play. And I thought we managed that very well. Proud of the complimentary football that we played, forcing 4 turnovers on defense that turned into 28 points by our offense, which ultimately that was a telling stat in the game. Have to admit, I am proud of our offense. It looked like a grind at times. That's because Middle Tennessee completely changed defenses. They went from a 4-down team to an odd team, played all new coverages, all new pressures. They did something entirely different than what we had practiced all week and what they'd shown in their first 3 games. So that's a little jarring. Oh, and then by the way, we held out Bruno Fina from the game, left tackle. So you had Brian Parker went from right tackle to left tackle. Justin Pickett went from guard to right tackle. Eric Schoen got his first career start. And I thought those guys up front, like that would already be a little bit of adversity. And then to play against a completely style of defense and what you had anticipated and practice and all the plays that you had set up for success to get Star Thomas back over 100 yards again on 17 carries was very encouraging. And then, we had a lot of respect for their quarterback and number 1 in 83. I don't ever felt like I felt number 1's presence during the course of the game. I'm not sure what he had from a receiving standpoint. But we knew we'd have to harass the quarterback into mistakes. And ultimately that's what was the difference in the game. Wes Williams with the strip sack, which gave us about the 1-yard line, really should have been a scoop and score. The pressure that led to Day Stone's interception, which led to another touchdown. I mean, that was the difference in the game. And I think we put him down a bunch of times as well. So as always, a lot to correct, but we will do it as a 4-0 football team as we head into conference play. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
And again, that was head coach Manny Diaz giving his thoughts immediately after Duke's 45-17 win. Again, as I stated, the Blue Devils go to 4-0. And that is the first time, fellas, here's something for you. The first time since 2018, Duke has gone undefeated in non-conference play. And before we talk more things about Middle Tennessee State, we gotta pay the bills. Got to keep the lights on. All these lights you see on the screen. First, we got to thank Matt Bliven. He has been doing our ticket giveaway. If I can talk tonight, Matt has been gracious enough to give away tickets. He's already given away the UNC tickets. So if you haven't been watching us, wait. Josh is pointing at me.
Shout out to Gary Farrell. We didn't even mention who it was.
Yes,
but
that is correct.
All I can tell you is if you know Gary Farrell, take him the next time you're playing poker, the next time you're playing the lottery, take Gary. He has won 2 of our giveaways here in the last few weeks. So shout out to Gary for that.
Might want to take Gary out for the FSU ticket giveaway so he can't enter. But yeah, like I said, the UNC tickets have already been given away. They were given away during UConn week, but there's going to be another giveaway later in the episode. That's all I'm going to say. Has to do with our next sponsor. But before we get to that sponsor, if you are looking to buy, sell, build, if you have any questions pertaining to the real estate market in the Durham area, give Matt a call. Matt's a Durham native. He's a Duke fan. He would love to answer any and all of your questions. Give him a call at 919-323-0527 or email him at mlb@nestrealty.com. Josh, who else we got to thank?
Yeah, for sure. We want to thank our friends at Home Field Apparel. They are that's where Brian's going to be doing his giveaway from a little bit later on this episode. The vintage branding there. Jamie's trying to figure out where it is on the screen. It's over there.
There we go.
There it is. Homefieldapparel.com is where you can go. They are the leader, the best in vintage gear. And so head to homefieldapparel.com and you can use the code section 17 and you get 15% off your first order. And so we really appreciate our friends there. We want you to hit that up. Obviously, maybe get some gear before the last Duke home game and wear it to the stadium. And so we'll look forward to mentioning a little bit more about them later on in our episode. And then our third sponsor is our friends over at Hometown Air. They have 25 years of experience in the HVAC landscape, and they are offering service contracts. What a service contract will do is give you comfort and peace of mind knowing that your HVAC system is working no matter what the season. Regular maintenance on your system will not only extend its life, but it will also ensure that your systems will run efficiently. So call them today and discover the peace of mind that comes with a worry-free HVAC system. And this is a reminder, if you sign a 1-year service contract with them and you mention Section 17 when you sign up, they will give you $17 off your first year. And we're getting about that point, guys. It's starting to get to the point where, like, for the guys, you're probably still wanting the air on, but here in the next couple of weeks, your wives are going to be like, hey, can we turn the heat on at night? You know, all those types of things. You need to make sure your systems are working properly. And so you can reach them at hometownairnc.com. That's hometownairnc.com, or you can call them at 919-568-3212. Don't forget to mention the Section 17 podcast.
Home, home, home. Always remember that. The 3 homes, the trifecta of homes. Thank you again to our Hellraiser sponsors for taking upon it yourselves to take us into your homes and sponsor us, and we're looking forward to many years ahead. Well, we did it, boys. We finally got an interview as well. We're going to get to that in just a second, but we got to give our quick thoughts about Middle Tennessee State. Again, Duke performed the way we thought they would perform based off of our comments and everything that we talked about last week. 3 of us were able to be in Murfreesboro for the game. Scott, he held the fort down. I know. Sorry, Scott. I had to mention it, though. So he got maybe to see some things that we might not have seen in person. But let's just get it out of the way really quick. Quick thoughts before we head into rivalry week against Chapel Hill College. Who wants to start first?
I'll start. Hey, Murfreesboro, it was fun. Keep Murfreesboro weird. Ask us for some stories. We'll tell you later. And I don't know that we can discuss this on air without going completely off the rails. But anyways, the game, Duke started kind of slow. I mean, to be honest, Middle Tennessee State scored a touchdown right off, but then Duke settled down, defense settled down, and it was what we thought it was going to be. I think we had all mentioned, Duke needed to score. We needed to see Duke score like 35 plus this game, and they ended up with 45 on the board. I think they probably would have had more had it not been for the lengthy weather delay. I believe they probably could have put 50 plus on the board. But after coming out after a weather delay, they scored, I think, 1 more touchdown. But I think they were basically just ready to be done with it. But all in all, great weekend. Had a great time with the guys and their wives. Moving on to the University of North Carolina.
Man, that was very respectful, Jamie, by calling them the University of North Carolina. I don't know what to think about that. But yeah, from our vantage point, a couple of things. If you were watching, and I don't know what it looked like on TV, but the field turf was a little bit sketchy for sure. You saw Degansky on the kickoffs a couple of different times, slip and fall. There was a couple of like line drive kickoffs there that I don't believe was the plan initially. The long touchdown run that you saw from the running back at Middle Tennessee, Jalen Stinson. 2 things happened at the same time. He slipped on the turf. Also, one of the field umpires was right there beside him. Looked like they collided a little bit, and obviously didn't allow Jalen to take the angle that I believe he wanted to take on that running back. And so, yeah, I mean, if you take away that long run, I know we may get to that, but if you take away that long run, really Duke's defense did another great job. And so, shout out to Nashville, shout out to Kid Rock and his bar, shout out to some good Hattie B's, shout out.
Except the collards.
Except the collard greens at Hattie B's, but Hattie B's is really good. And like Jamie said, my wife and I, Brian's wife and him, and then Tyler, our producer, and his wife Amanda were all able to go, and Jamie, and so we had a great time. If you saw the party van driving around Murfreesboro, that was us. So, Scott, anything on TV that maybe we missed in person?
Well, I mean, Shout out not to ESPN on a really crappy job of not putting the game back online as soon as it came back on. But shout out to David Shoemate and Dave Harding for being there for us to listen to on the Varsity app for those of us that could not get it. And then again to the intern or whoever that took a nap midway through the third quarter there when they went to a TV timeout and ran the same commercial for about 8 minutes. But anyway, other than that, I mean, Duke played well. It was fun to watch on TV. Yeah, you know, the play Josh was talking about where Stinson slipped. I'm gonna be honest with you. It looked like we being Duke, we missed that one pretty good because they ran exactly where we were not. We lined up on the other side of the field. They ran the exact opposite, and that's why they got a touchdown. Stinson and the referee thing, whatever, but that's why they got a touchdown. We just were nobody there. And that's something need to be worked on for this Saturday. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But other than that, I mean, it looked like a decent crowd. Heard a lot of Duke fans on TV, especially after they scored a couple touchdowns. But man, the defense, that was one of the places I think that we talked about preseason. We were unsure what was going to be like. I'm telling you right now, this defense is really good. They have put a lot of new key pieces from other places in spots. And that's why we as in Duke are playing really good and while they're ranking very high in the nation. So, shout out to the defense and shout out to the offense for finally getting over 26 because, man, we had 28 before the end of the first quarter. There was 1:19 left to go in the first quarter when Nicky scored his second touchdown to go at 28-10. So shout out that. Hey, Nashville, hate I missed you. Wish I could have been there. But I did my best to hold down the fort. Didn't cheer and yell too hard. Didn't yell at too many referees, maybe. But anyway.
Yeah, so field turf was the elephant in the room. Yeah, it looked like the guys were on ice. And we might want to look into this, our remaining schedule, who has field turf. Because I was telling the guys in the stands, and Tyler, our producer, was actually there getting some video and some shots. He was just standing there on the field, and he said it was terrible, just walking on it. So I can only imagine the guys wearing football cleats trying to make cuts, kicks, moves. Nicky almost fell on that first touchdown, guys, if you remember. He was wide open. He got tripped up. Luckily, he kept his feet under him, but it is what it is. Again, I just echo everything the guy said. It was a great weekend. Duke showed up when they needed to. This was the game other than UConn where if Duke had not shown up, I think this would have been a completely different conversation on tonight's episode. But it was great to see. Duke's defense is a top 20 defense heading into this weekend. That is something that not so much surprised me, but when I saw it on the NCAA website, very impressed so far with the way Manny Diaz and his staff have gotten this team to their standards. I mean, I'm not saying they were bad by any stretch heading into the season, but again, it was just an adjustment period, getting used to new playbooks, new schemes, new calls, everything like that. Shout out to Heather and Phil Barton. We were able to have lunch with them the Friday before the game. It was good catching up with them. The Bartons have been nothing but nice to us in the time that we've gotten to know them when Graham was here at Duke, and now Graham down in Tampa doing his thing with the Buccaneers. Unfortunately, they didn't look that good yesterday. But all that to say, I don't think anything negative on the trip happened. For us, everything was on time. Everything was good. Jamie got home safe from his 8-hour drive. Me and Josh kind of got into it with one of the fans. That's another story for another time. But now it's time. We got to look forward. Chapel Hill College Rivalry Week, the most exciting week in college football for Duke fans. It's time to get the bell back. That's all I will say. Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. It is rivalry week. It's rivalry week. But it is rivalry. Oh man, this is terrible. Rivalry week. Try saying that 5 times fast. And we're looking forward.
Here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Chapel Hill College, as we call them, comes to town. And as we have told you, we will do our best on these episodes leading up to ACC games to bring in someone and talk about the matchup. And so Brian was able to sit down with Jones Angell, who you will probably recognize as the voice of the Tar Heels. Listen, there's a lot of people that claim those Tar Heels over there that we don't like and we don't get along with. Jones Angell is one of the few, the proud that we love. He does a great job, and he's always been a friend of this pod. And so take a few minutes to listen to Brian's conversation with the voice of the Tar Heels, Jones Angell.
Happy to bring back Jones Angell of the Tar Heel Sports Network. I believe this is now the third or fourth year that we have sat down together to talk all things Victory Bell rivalry with Duke and Carolina. As always, Jones will be on the call in Wallace Wade Stadium Saturday afternoon into the evening, 4 o'clock on the Tar Heel Sports Network. Jones, we appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, Brian, always enjoy talking with you guys. Boy, these have just been wild games. I mean, it feels like whenever these two get together, they do tend to be weird games, and they certainly have been the last two seasons. Really competitive, close, and fortunately, from the Carolina perspective, Tar Heel victories. But man, they have been really good games, and a lot of intrigue going into this one as well. So always enjoy talking with you, and looking forward to Saturday afternoon.
We were a little bit disappointed because I did my research. I was ready. So if you want to blame me for jinxing the Tar Heels, I'm sorry. It would have been the first time ever in the series where an undefeated Duke team would play an undefeated Carolina team for the Victory Bell. So my apologies, Carolina fans, if you're watching this. I did not mean to put that on you, but let's just jump into it. Point blank, what happened Saturday? It was a game that not many people expected the outcome that happened with JMU beating Carolina 70-50, and it was also the first time in 10 years the Tar Heels gave up 70 points.
Well, it was only the second time ever. I mean, that's a huge number, right?
Yeah, true.
So more than 600 yards allowed, school record in points allowed in a half, and then tying the school record as far as points allowed, period. It was the most points and the most yards Carolina has ever scored and accrued in a loss. So, I mean, it was just, Brian, it was a really strange game. And I fully admit, I did not, A, see it coming, nor B, like I understood James Madison is a quality program. It was not impossible for James Madison to win the game, but to see it play out the way it did was very surprising to me for a couple of different reasons. One is Carolina had been playing really good defense the first couple of weeks of the season. I thought Jeff Collins had done a really good job with this group. They had been playing fast. They had been playing free. They had been getting after the quarterback. They gave up a couple of explosive plays in the pass game against Charlotte. A lot of those, in my opinion, were really nice plays by Charlotte, some really nice throws and catches, or maybe just the guy got beat. And sometimes that happens. That was not the case in this JMU game. There were guys, Brian, you and I could have completed some of those passes to each other on Saturday. So that's what was surprising to me, is what had been so encouraging from the Tar Heel defense point of view was it had been very solid, very sound, very steady. It hadn't been right all the time, but it had been very, I think that's sound and steady, I think are really good words, which was something Carolina was looking for. It needed to get to that point. And so to have those couple of games that way were really exciting to see. And so then for it to be 180 degrees away, I mean, just bust and mistakes and mental errors and wide open holes and wide open guys. That's what was so surprising. And then I think it was even a little surprising on the other side of it, in that Carolina's offense has not been as explosive this year as it has been the last several years. This has been a team that has really relied on its fantastic running back, Omarion Hampton, to run the football. A little more ball control than Carolina has been here recently. Of course, there's been so much movement at that quarterback position, Jacoby Criswell being the third different player that had started in 4 games at the quarterback spot. So I didn't foresee Jacoby Criswell going out there and throwing for 475 yards and 3 touchdowns either. And he was terrific. And so there were just so many strange things that happened that bucked the trends of what had happened up until that point. Even to the point where James Madison's defense had been excellent the first couple of games. Carolina had 616 yards. James Madison's offense had been, quite honestly, pretty anemic. They scored 13 points against Gardner-Webb. And so it just, again, was very surprising in that way, Brian. And so for Carolina, and then you add in the special teams too, where each team blocked a punt for a touchdown. There was a surprise onside. And so there was a lot that happened in this game. Some of it for the Tar Heels was self-inflicted. Some was poor execution. There were some bad bounces. I mean, it was a bad day all the way around for Carolina. And so a surprising day, a stunning day. And now the only good news for Carolina is that it was not a conference game and that the Tar Heels still have a lot in front of them. And so now it becomes, how does Carolina respond? And like, who is this team? And to me, that's been one of the bigger question marks throughout the entire first month of the season, Brian, for Carolina. And I was saying this going into James Madison, so just that one game didn't change it. Like, I still think it's hard to know, like, who is this group? What are they best at? What can they hang their hat on? Where are the clear deficiencies? And it's easy to say, well, obviously defense. Well, it had been really good the first 3 weeks. So I still think there's just all of these unknowns, which to me is unusual a month into the year. You may not know all the answers, but you at least have a feel. Like for Duke, that Duke is a very good defensive team. You know that they have a great set of wide receivers and a quarterback that's starting to, get more comfortable as he's taking more reps. You know what Duke is. There's still going to be things that happen throughout the course of the season, but you have a feel for what kind of team it is. I'm honest with you, Brian. I still think it's hard to get a feel for what kind of team Carolina is because you've seen all these different data points and you don't know which one to believe. And so I guess we'll get the next set of data points coming up on Saturday.
Well, and the other thing that came out of Saturday's game, of course, was the news that Matt Brown had initially said he was resigning immediately. Then it came out it was misconstrued, miscommunication, everything like that. You weren't around. I'm not asking for all the details, but I would say give Duke fans a little bit of background with Matt Brown because you have now been with this school, with this program for many years now. You host weekly shows with him, just like our Dave Shoemate does with the coaches, Coach Diaz, Coach Elko, Coach Cutcliffe. So just kind of give us a background about Mac, because obviously that came out. We as Duke fans were surprised to even hear that was even sniffed at, because I mean UNC is 3-1. Let's call it like it is. It's not like they're 0-4 heading into this Duke game. So and again, Mac came out today. He had his press conference, said no, it's a misunderstanding, but kind of give Duke fans just kind of a FYI, a background with Mac and how he takes losses like this.
Yeah, and to your point, and I know you set it up, but I do just want to put the caveat, like just how it works for us at home. For home games, we have a setup inside Keenan Football Center where Mac Brown, after he addresses the team, goes and sits down. He throws on a headset and he's connected to our booth. Whereas for a road game, for example, after this game coming up on Saturday, I'll make that long walk across the practice field over there to the locker room, and I'll at least be in the locker room area, if not in the locker room, waiting for Coach Brown after the game. So I was not there. I can't tell you exactly what happened. Not that you asked me to, but just as the caveat for my answer here. And obviously it's a sensitive subject for Carolina right now. My experience with Coach Brown, and he has said this publicly, is that he cares a whole lot what happens on the field. He cares because he feels a lot of responsibility on game day. He and feels a lot of responsibility, period. I think he feels responsible to his staff, his players, the fans. He feels responsible for what happens on the field every single Saturday and what happens every single day within the Carolina football program. And as he said after the game on Saturday, at this point, Coach Brown's in his 6th year of his second tenure and has hired every person in that building and has recruited every player on the team. And so he feels very responsible and he cares deeply for what happens. It was not a good day on Saturday. It was not a good day on the field. It didn't feel good in Kenan Stadium. The fans were frustrated. The team was frustrated. Coach Brown was obviously frustrated. It did not feel good to be a Tar Heel in that particular moment. And so I do feel like he just was so disappointed in himself and so frustrated with the situation that he does get very emotional in those situations. Now, as far as exactly what was said or how it was construed, clearly there was some kind of disconnect between what he thought he was saying and what others thought he was saying. But it is not out of the realm of possibility to me to see him just being emotional and frustrated and disappointed, particularly after a moment like that. And again, I think it comes from a place of care and responsibility. But as he said multiple times on Monday during his press conference, even at 73 years old, he can admit freely when he makes a mistake and admit freely that you can still learn when you're a little farther along the journey than others are. And so certainly a distraction that wasn't needed for Carolina, one that they'll continue to have to manage through. And another reason why I'm sure they'll be excited when things kick off on Saturday, just to be able to turn the page and move to the next chapter.
Well, and before we get to Saturday's matchup with some of the fill in the blanks that we always do with you, I want to look ahead a little bit to UNC's schedule. What are some games? And before I say this, let me preface: the ACC is out of control this year. I feel like coastal chaos has taken over the entire ACC. But what games do you consider must-win games for this Tar Heels team this year?
Well, yeah, that's hard to answer, Brian. I always enjoy Mac Brown has a lot of, he's coached for so long. He's got some statements and sayings that I really believe in. One is, if you don't think a game's important, just lose it and find out how important it is. And you could probably use this James Madison game as a great example. That probably wasn't one that a lot of Tar Heel fans had circled on the schedule before the year, but I promise it will be one that they remember after this season. And so I don't know if I can identify this game is more important than this game. Look, we know that the battle for the victory bell is a huge game. We know that from the Carolina and the opponent point of view, the NC State Carolina game is a big game. Carolina plays Wake Forest this year. That's a big game because these are built-in rivalries that do matter, and part of what makes college athletics so great is those local rivalries and everything that goes into them. So automatically those games are going to be big. I would throw Virginia in there as well, at least for the Carolina-Virginia relationship. That's one that is feels like a very local rivalry, oldest rivalry in the South, all those different things. So all of those will be important. I'll mention two more, and at that point I've almost gone through the whole schedule. Georgia Tech is a team that for whatever reason Carolina has had a ton of trouble with. And I don't, Brian, I don't have the number like right in front of me, so I'm going to make it up, and it may not be exactly right, but it's something like in the last 25 games, that series is like 20-5 Georgia Tech. I mean, it's crazy, and I don't feel like Georgia Tech has been that much better of a program than Carolina in that time period, but the results on the field have skewed very heavily towards Georgia Tech. And then Carolina goes to Florida State, and that will be an enormous matchup. I don't know. Florida State got its first win this past weekend. You figure that they are better than their record says, but that will be a big game for Carolina. It's later in the year. And in fact, I'll focus in, Brian, on that whole month of November. Carolina has felt like it has really ended seasons poorly here recently. And it's pretty easy to see just looking at the numbers. 2 years ago, they were 9-1 and finished 9-5. Last year, they were 6-0 and finished 8-5. And so, that's a 0-4 finish and a 2-5 finish the last 2 years. So a lot of focus has been put on the close to the season, not necessarily like highlighting those games right now, but what can Carolina do throughout the course of its daily operation, not just game to game, but practice to practice, meal to meal, meeting to meeting, to be ready to be better that time of year than they have been recently. So all of those games are big. And last thing I'll answer, and sorry, I know this has been long-winded, is that the thing about the playoff right now is everybody has a chance, at least in these Power Four conferences. You get to your conference championship game, you're playing one game for the right to go to the playoff, guaranteed spot. And so and Carolina's done with its non-conference play at this point, which I think Duke is as well.
Yep.
And so every game at this point, from this point forward, you have an opportunity to build that resume to get to Charlotte in the championship game. And if you get to that championship game, then you have everything in front of you at that point. And so every one of these games is critical in that regard because, as you referenced, the ACC is wide open. I think Miami's been the best team so far. Clemson has played much better after losing to a good Georgia team in week 1. But there are a lot of teams that feel like they have something that has gone right at the beginning of the year. And a lot of teams that are very much in the mix to get to Charlotte. So every one of those games is critical in that regard.
We do the same thing. Which game can Duke win? All of them. We've
Yeah,
mentioned
all
all
of
the teams. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean look, Pittsburgh, that'll be a big one here in a couple of weeks. I didn't mention them. Boston College, let's go, all of them.
Every single one of them. All right, let's focus back on to this Saturday, 4 o'clock ESPN kickoff. You'll be on call, obviously, for the radio part of it. Got a couple of fill-in-the-blanks before we let you go. We know that you have your own podcast that you've got to record today. So, again, we appreciate you coming on. So let's start with the obvious one. Other than Omarion Hampton, a player Duke fans should be concerned about this Saturday is?
Well, I mean, Jacoby Criswell, what an arrival for him at the quarterback position this past week for Carolina. Kind of lost in that whole mess that was the day. Was that was his second career start, but it was his first start understanding that he was the guy. His other start came in a game in 2021 when Sam Howell was injured. Carolina was playing Wofford that day. They went into that game with a plan to start Criswell for a half and Drake May, a freshman at the time, for a half. And so that a little different circumstances than now where he knows he's the guy at the quarterback position. And for him to go out there, and it wasn't perfect. He had one critical poor throw that was an interception that was returned for a touchdown. But for him to throw 3 touchdowns, 475 yards, I think he threw the ball, I think it was 48 times. Brian, he had thrown like 80 passes his whole career. And he threw 48 the other day. His previous career high was like 161 yards. And so he really was impressive. He was under a lot of heat. He will be under a lot of heat on Saturday because that's how Duke and Manny Diaz operate. I think they lead the country in tackles for loss and are right up there in sacks. So he is going to be under some pressure. How does he perform under that pressure? I thought he did a really nice job for the most part, even with guys in his face this past week. And so he is a fascinating story, a guy who started his career at Carolina, was always just behind he was behind Sam Howell, lost a neck and neck battle with Drake May to see who was going to be the starter. Then Drake May did what he did at Carolina, went to Arkansas thinking he was going to be the starter, but then the incumbent guy ended up staying when nobody thought he was going to, then back to Carolina. I mean, it's a wild story for a great kid who I was happy individually to see him have some success. And I think it changes Carolina's opportunities offensively moving forward this year. If he's not going to throw for 475 every game, but if he can have that kind of at least success and poise in the pocket and in the pass game, it changes what Carolina can be offensively. So that'll be certainly a storyline to keep an eye on.
I always ask you these questions, and it's always good to get your insight. First one, Duke can regain the victory bell back from UNC for the first time since 2018. That's been too long, by the way.
Boy, it's hard, Brian, to say anything other than if they can exploit the Tar Heel defense the way that James Madison did this past week. And again, it has been such a strange year. I mean, Carolina almost, I'm trying to think here, Brian, they might have. I just, the stats so great. They either gave up more points in the first half against James Madison than they had the previous 3 games combined, or it was close. So, I mean, it's just hard to know what Duke's going to see defensively from Carolina. If Duke sees the defense that was out there the first 3 weeks, that was in the right place, that wasn't first 3 teams, nobody rushed for more than 79 yards, that was pressuring the quarterback consistently, that was communicating, that was making sound, smart plays. If they see that defense, I think that's obviously a very good thing for Carolina. But if Duke can do, and I'm not smart enough football-wise to tell you what James Madison did other than get Carolina very out of sorts. If Duke can do something similar, it's just hard. It's hard to win those type of games when it's 59-52 or whatever. I mean, it's hard to consistently be able to score enough offensively when you're doing the type of things that was happening to Carolina defensively. So if Duke can take advantage of that again, like James Madison did, they'll obviously have a great chance to win the game.
On the flip side, even with the last week performance by the Tar Heels, UNC will keep the victory bell for the 6th straight season if
two things. One, if they can remain diversified offensively, I just think it opens things up so drastically differently for Carolina offensively to have a threat to throw the ball. And they just didn't have a threat for a couple of weeks to be able to push the ball down the field because Brian Hampton's one of the best running backs in the ACC and in the country. He's big, he's strong, he breaks tackles. When he gets out in the open field, he can run away from you. He will be one of the first running backs taken in the NFL draft. He is an outstanding player, I think, and this is nothing negative towards anybody on Duke. I think he'll be the best player on the field. I think he's the best player on the field every time Carolina plays, regardless of opponent. They had to diversify what they did offensively so other teams couldn't just sit there and put 8-9 guys up there where it's hard for anybody to consistently be effective in that way. So if Carolina can stay diversified offensively, and they'll need to be better up front. They struggled some on that O-line this past week. They do have a young O-line. If they can stay diversified offensively, that's number one. And then number two is just you can't have anywhere, you can't sniff the type of defensive performance that they had this past week. It was as poor a defensive performance as I can remember seeing. And that's disappointing, and it's not fun to say, but it's just the facts. And so you give up 70 points and 600 some yards. There's not much good coming out of that. So they've got to, they don't necessarily need to shut Duke down, and that's hard to do. But they can't be that bad. They've got to come back closer to the team that you saw in the first 3 weeks.
Final thing before I let you go, and again, I appreciate you coming on and joining us. Give us a favorite memory or call during your time with the Victory Bell rivalry. I know I put you on the spot, but I got to ask.
No, you know what? It really is such a terrific rivalry, and I know it's easy. I mean, Carolina's won this, 5 years in a row, and I know it's easy to say when you've won it, the team that you like wins it 5 years in a row. But what I do enjoy about this rivalry is that more times than not, it's not every single year, but these are competitive close games. Even when Duke went through some years there in the 2000s where they just were not very good, and it's not like Carolina was great all those years, but these games were always close. And so I'll give you one when I was young Jones watching the Tar Heels, and then I'll give you one here more recently. I remember, and it was either 90 or 91 when Nature and Means was just running crazy all over. I guess that would have been 90 when Spurrier took the picture in front of the scoreboard the year before in Chapel Hill. Yeah, and then Carolina finally got it back and was starting to gain some momentum in Coach Brown's first tenure. That was a fantastic win for that particular team. I remember that 94 game where it was 41-40, I think, or something was the final score, and Octavius Barnes had a big touchdown late in that game for Carolina. That was a great one from the Tar Heel perspective. Here recently, man, that one in 2019 where Chaz Surratt intercepted the pop pass on the goal line at the end of the game. I mean, that game, it was insane. I remember the Tar Heels were going in to essentially salt it away and fumbled on the goal line. Then Duke drives like 98 yards, and then Carolina intercepts it in the end zone. Just insane. And then these last 2 years, I mean, Drake May has willed Carolina to these wins these last 2 years. The one in Durham where he hit Antoine Green at the end of the game, and then last year with all the pandemonium. And Brian, that game was on, the ACC network was replaying it or something a couple of weeks ago, and I just sat and watched I'd forgotten all the crazy things that happened. That strange play where Nesbitt looked like he fumbled and it didn't get called a fumble. And then there was Carolina, for some reason, all out blitzing on the final or near the end of regulation on a 4th and forever, and Duke hits the long touchdown. I mean, what a crazy game that was. And so, I don't know if my heart can take it, but this series normally provides some dramatic finishes. And at least from the Tar Heel perspective, if it happens again, they hope it comes out on the lighter blue side of things. We'll see.
And another chapter is going to be added this Saturday. Can guarantee that win or lose for Duke, it should be a good one. Jones, we appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the rest of the season, and we'll talk with you soon.
Oh, Brian, always enjoy it, and I really do enjoy these games. I know Carolina Duke basketball, rightfully so, gets a lot of attention, and they're two of the best programs in the history of the sport. But these are always fun. It's a great rivalry. The folks at Duke are terrific people. I always enjoy going over to Wallace Wade, and so I'm looking forward to that on Saturday, and looking forward to another great game.
Looking forward to it. Thanks again, Jones.
And thank you, Brian, for doing that. Thanks to Jones Angell for always coming on and giving us great insight into what's going on in the world of UNC football. Kind of an interesting weekend that they had this past weekend. I'm sure Duke fans and, state fans were able to, empathize a little bit with UNC fans last week. But anyway, Duke had a great week, and it was really good to be a Blue Devil this weekend. You weren't a NC State Wolfpack fan. You're not a UNC Tar Heel fan. If you were a Duke or even an East Carolina Pirate fan, if you were a Duke fan, you got to win, and you're feeling good about yourself. And so that was a lot of fun, and we look forward to this matchup coming up. It is our time, guys. This is it. Every week we hit that mailbag. We had to condense a little bit this week because we're going to bring you a full episode. And so, Jamie, hit us with some of the best questions that we got, man.
All right. First off, I want to shout out my guy at Levi Haynes 10, because he was looking forward to being in town and seeing our big deck in person. Not ours, but Duke's big deck. Yes.
Was that a DM or was that a DM that he sent to you, or was that?
Whoa, Jamie, whoa!
Actually, shout out, man. We haven't seen Levi in a long time. So Levi, make sure you come see us, man. We look forward to seeing you, dude.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones we met when we got started doing this. And Levi, we thought he was like 12 years old when he came up and introduced himself. I remember that. That was hilarious. All right, now starting off the real deal. So I'm gonna start off with a tweet. This person screenshot at Will Brinson tweet. And so the last loss Mac took this bad was against BYU in his final season at Texas. He then fired defensive coordinator Manny Diaz immediately. Manny didn't even want to shake his hand for those UNC Miami games, which leads to the question from at Squatch Golf. With this knowledge in mind, how much of a beatdown do we expect from Duke? Feel that this is a curb stomping waiting to happen, with the players wanting the bell and Diaz wanting the last laugh against his former head coach.
Didn't Manny mention that in the presser? I didn't get to see all of it, but I think he mentioned it today about how everyone's going to talk about the past. Everyone's going to talk about certain scenarios and situations and how things played out. Listen, if you're a coach of any type and you've been wronged by someone, no matter what you say or how you say it, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, we can score a little bit more. We can kick a field goal. How much time's left? We can do this. We can make that statement. The thing with this game is this. UNC is reeling right now. Jones started, Jones had mentioned that in the interview. Yes. By the way, folks, I'm just going to stop. I've got a fly in my office right now, and I'm trying to kill this sucker because it's one of two things is either going to happen. I'm either going to swallow it or I'm going to fall out of my chair trying to kill it. Thanks for throwing me off, guys. Anyway, I would be remiss to say if Duke's got the ball, it's late in the game. They've got the game in hand. They don't need the points. I wouldn't be surprised if a kneel down is out of the question and maybe another, scamper in or a Topolino field goal. You've seen the clips. You saw the clip in Keenan where Mac would not let Manny go. I don't think we know what was said. I think that was between those two guys. But yeah, you don't forget. You never forget. If you're a competitor, you always remember those wrongdoings that were done to you. And when you have your opportunity, you take your shot. So I think the mindset is let's win first. And if we're winning handily, let's give some payback.
I mean, you guys know this. This podcast officially appreciates pettiness when it comes to football and football coaches. Over the last 2 seasons, we have tried to create our own pettiness and feed it to former head coach Mike Elko. We always were looking for little things. This is, no different. Obviously, there's going to be a little skin in the game for Coach Diaz here. The game in Coral Gables as well will be an interesting one, and even the NC State matchup, where he once coached. So this is no different. This is the victory bell that Duke has not had in 5 seasons. So I don't think there needs to be any further skin in the game, to be honest with you, than what it already will be. But I will say this. 2 things. First of all, I think people are overreacting a little bit to the Carolina blowout this past weekend. It happened. Listen, once a year, Duke lays an egg. What was it, Louisville last year? Like, Duke literally went into that game and absolutely laid an egg, completely laid an egg, and then came back and beat Pitt or whoever, Wake Forest, whoever was the last game of the season. So, you can't read too much into it. Keep in mind, they did put up some gaudy offensive numbers as well. UNC did. And then the last thing I'll say is I do think it's interesting. Mac Brown does the whole, like, older coach mentorship after he wins a game. Somebody else used to do that. He happened to coach basketball at Duke, and a lot of people hated when he did that. He was really good at, like, the extended handshake after he won, and the pat on the chest. And so, yeah, Manny got that treatment. I'm sure if Duke wins Saturday night, there will be a lot of cameras on that handshake there at midfield.
So kind of what Josh has said kind of leads me to the next question. Could UNC be that wounded animal that's backed into a corner? And Ed Turlington on Facebook asked, will Chapel Hill College have a psychological boost to play the rival game immediately after their large loss? And I say yes. I mean, go ahead, Scott.
Now, I was going to say, look, honestly, I hope that Duke comes out and layeth the smack it down on them. But I'm not going to lie to you. These fools are probably going to come out and play like the 85 freaking Bears on Saturday, looking like they're the best team ever. And that's what happens in a rivalry game. And to be honest with you, as much as we want to slap them like the Flies trying to get slapped at Brian's house right now, we would love for that to happen. But, it's going to be a close game. If it's not, then, hey, I'm okay with that too. But, yeah, I think they're going to come out. Carolina's going to be ready to play. Mac's going to figure out how to, he's going to give him the greatest speech ever while he's eating his pudding cup while he's talking to him this week there on the 8th day. So God only knows how they're going to play. Hopefully they play like crap and we beat them by 60.
Yeah, I mean, chances are it's not going to be a blowout. I mean, if you look back at the history of the series, even when Duke has been bad, they've played Carolina close, and I don't think Carolina. That being said, I do not think Carolina's a bad team. I agree with Josh. I think Saturday could have been a bit of a outlier, but you two have something else, Brian?
Well, yeah. Don't forget the offense was still rolling, because if they had not been rolling, it would have been 70-35, 70-28. And I found these stats. UNC amassed 616 yards of total offense. So it's not like they were a dead animal on Keenan's field. So they've still got the defense. I mean, the offense. The defense was the area that even Jones said was the area that they were all scratching their heads at. Because for the first 3 games, let's just call it like it is. I don't care who they played. UNC's defense looked pretty good. Looked great against Minnesota. Looked decent against Charlotte. Who else did they play other than JMU? There's one more. Central. Yeah, that's an asterisk one. I mean, everyone has their FCS game, if we're being honest. So, to Josh's point, it could have just been that one game. And to Jamie's point, these games typically produce close games. Records don't matter. It's almost like the basketball series. It doesn't matter where you're ranked. It doesn't matter what your record is coming in. These guys know the importance of it. It's not just a win. You've got that bell, too. If you're a new Duke fan and you've never seen the bell in Wallace Wade on the field, the hope is this is the year. Should have happened the last 2 years. We're not going to look at the past, but we want that bell, plain and simple. And UNC fans, they love to give it to us when it comes to that. They just love to say how the bell is just staying at home And it's frustrating, but at the same time, this could be the year.
And Brian, you talked about the offense, which leads actually to our next question. At TS Lester, he says he feels like people are going to see that JMU UNC score and not realize that UNC may have found their QB in Criswell. With how he performed, containing Hampton may not be as easy as expected. Obviously, Hampton's a great player, and we know that. He's probably going to be our first target, contain him and make Criswell beat you. But he says he thinks we are the better team, but if our offense hits one of those 2 to 3 series ruts, he said things could get weird. And we did see it. Me and Brian were sitting there watching the UNC JMU game, and we noticed that Criswell was starting to find his way. I mean, he had a couple of turnovers, but he was making plays. Like, he was making plays, and it looks like they could have found their QB of the future. Is he a redshirt freshman, or is he? I'm not even sure.
I get them confused. I want to say he is a freshman.
No, didn't he leave and come back?
He may have. I'm not sure.
Didn't he transfer out and transfer back in?
I'll effort.
So let me say this: he did turn the ball over 3 times, and there was 3 god awful turnovers. Like, so the other thing is, they were playing from behind the entire game. He was going to throw the ball like crazy. JMU's defense obviously was terrible. So, like, we got to put it all in perspective. That's my thought on it. Yes, he played good, but you know what? They were down 28 points to JMU, and so he's a grad student. I thought he had left and come back. So yeah, definitely not a freshman.
Arkansas. He went to Arkansas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so I don't think they found their quarterback. To be honest with you, I don't. I think that if Duke was down 28 points to JMU, Malik Murphy's going to throw 6 touchdowns too. Like, it is what it is. It's kind of like when you play fantasy football in the NFL, right? One of the best quarterbacks you can have is the quarterback that's on a bad team that's going to always be behind, so they're always going to be throwing the ball. So his stats are going to be inflated. So anyway, that's my
really
thought.
though. Bryce Young's stats weren't inflated.
Listen, how the
about
hell
Andy
do you
Dalton?
stop?
Dalton,
No,
though.
stop.
That's
Stop this.
The
Oh,
redheaded,
God.
the redheaded savior of the franchise. Oh, here
Redheaded Jesus.
Ginger Jesus.
All right.
Hey, and by the way, Criswell apparently has been at UNC the entire time. He's from Arkansas. I was mistaken. So that dude was behind.
Swear he transferred out and transferred back. Dude.
That dude was behind Drake May and Sam Howell. Because wasn't Howell in 2020?
Jeez,
Yeah,
he's older than I am.
Yeah, dude just got handed the clipboard his freshman year and said, "Just hold on to this. You're gonna have it for a while."
Him and Baycott been making careers there at Carolina. Okay, Kevin.
So Jamie, real quick on that. The one thing I was saying, not quarterback related, but the thing to look for at UNC is they've got 2 tight ends, Nesbitt and Copenhaver, that are incredible. And so, like, that's the thing that scares me. I love our outside. I love Pickett. I love Rivers covering the outside. I don't know. We've not really faced, I don't think. I mean, the tight end at Northwestern was decent. But I mean, they're going to really highlight those 2 tight ends. And so I think that's the question mark for me heading into the game.
I would say that this is the best running back we will see also, no matter what.
Heck yeah.
In all honesty, and again, not trying to find fault with anything, but Duke has had struggles at times with the running game and the short situation. And that dude, Hampton, man, he will find a hole and he will run through it every time. And they block very good for him. So, we're going to have to stop him. And Nesbitt is their best wide receiver / tight end as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, talking about Hampton, I just pulled his stats real quick. Dude's got 86 carries, 555 yards, 6.5 yards a carry, and 6 touchdowns. So he's the guy that we have to stop him. Like, we can't.
But here's a reminder. This could very well be the worst offensive line that Duke has faced so far, because UNC only returned 1 starter on that entire offensive line. And I believe one of them got injured, Jamie. We were watching the game. I can't remember who it was. I don't know if they came back in. And Jones made a good point when we were talking. Duke can't stack the box. because of the 2 tight end set, because of the wide receivers. Chris Will has time. He showed it against JMU. He can sling the ball down the field. So it's finding that balance of stopping Hampton, but also making sure the passing game doesn't get going because, 22nd best offense in the country. You can't, the facts are the facts. You got to stop the offense.
All right. Kevin Trapani, not sure if I pronounced that right, off of Facebook. Lots of past Duke teams wouldn't be 4-0 right now, especially with so many new faces. He said, still, it feels like Malik is dangerously inaccurate. Even though he completes 65% of his passes, his misses are often way off. And he asks how much is on him and how much is on the receivers and their route running. I see what he's saying. I mean, we see it at least once a game, it seems like.
What's a route?
Route runner.
Route runner? Is he running up a tree?
He's right. He's running a carrot.
Yeah, there you go.
Route, route, they mean the same thing.
James went full British on us there for like one word.
I'm going to run the route.
I see what he's saying. Like when Malik misses, he misses. He's crazy accurate on his deep ball. Seems like, but seems like when he misses, it's more of that, 15 to 20 yard range. I feel like.
Yeah, let me just say this: he is not wildly inaccurate. A quarterback that completes 65% of his passes is not wildly inaccurate. That is factually untrue. Secondly, if you're going to miss, I would rather you miss than barely miss, because that's called interceptions, right? If you're going to miss, throw it over the dude's head out of bounds, 10 feet over his head. Like, great. Don't miss by 2 feet because the safety gets that one.
Now, he said dangerously inaccurate, not wildly
dangerous.
inaccurate. See,
Dangerously inaccurate.
And I see what he's saying, because on his interceptions, they have been you know what I'm saying.
How many interceptions he's doing in the season? 3? 1 per game, basically 4, maybe. The one Saturday, the one thing I will say about the interception Saturday, he was throwing, I believe Nicky was crossing, and he threw it well over his head, and the safety got it. That one I would have loved to see him move his feet and he's thrown 4, so 1 per game. I'm not complaining about 1 interception per game. That's just me personally. Not mad about it because he's throwing about 3 touchdowns per game. So anyway, but I will say, I believe it's going to get to the bigger question that maybe we got again this week. I'm not sure about him moving his feet and getting out of the pocket. I'm sure we have a question about it because every Duke fan has a question about it. Like, we know the answer to that. But yes, if he moves his feet, moves in and out of the pocket more, he creates better passing lanes for himself, and he doesn't throw that pick at Middle Tennessee. So I will give you that. Is he an inaccurate quarterback? No, he's not an inaccurate quarterback. The numbers just do not say that. He is more accurate than Daniel Jones was in any of his 3 seasons at Duke. He's more accurate than Riley Leonard was in his 2 seasons at Duke. So he is an accurate quarterback.
How many of those interceptions turned into points for the opposing team? That would be my question too.
I had that one weird pick six. The pick 6 was weird.
Okay, listen.
Yeah,
I don't count that one because it wasn't like he purposefully threw it at the big boy for UConn. That was just one of the weirdest bounces I've ever seen in my life. But seriously, it's just like a fumble. When a running back or a wide receiver fumbles the ball, if you fumble it, they don't score, put your helmet back on, go back out there. You've got to put it behind you. Same with the interception. And to Josh's point, he is accurate. He's better than he should be in some instances because remember, there's Henry in waiting arms to take on the field. Now, I'll be completely honest with you folks. There were times Saturday where we wondered if Henry might come in as a change of pace quarterback. It happened at Northwestern. You saw what happened that series. He kind of got the juices flowing for the offense, and then Malik came back in. That never happened. To me, that's Manny saying, figure it out. Get over your mistakes. You threw an interception. Keep playing. And it worked out. So I think Duke fans just aren't used to seeing the long ball being thrown as much in a game. Because if it was any quarterback, if it was your Riley, if it was Daniel, if it was Thad Lewis, I'll start throwing quarterbacks out there. Would we be having the same conversation? would the same question
Oh, look, Duke
be
fans spent the
asked?
last 2 years crying that we didn't throw the deep ball.
Right.
And now they're crying because we are throwing the deep ball. So it's like, Duke fans, like, for the love of God, like, like just accept where we're at and hope for the best. Because once again, as I said last week, if you put all these things together into one quarterback, you have freaking Patrick Mahomes. Like everything the Duke fans want in a quarterback, it's just not going to be there. So we have to take the good with the bad, understanding where we're at. I think Malik's doing a great job. And yes, I agree with you. He can move his feet more. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to play to the strengths of the quarterback. And Malik's strength is that big arm. I mean, he can chunk it a daggone mile.
Guys, he's thrown 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, that's
With
a
4
great
games
ratio.
in, I mean, I think that's a pretty good thing for us as Duke fans.
I'll take it. 11-4. I will absolutely take that.
I mean, hey, listen, that means he could go like 44 touchdowns and 11 interceptions on the season. You know?
That's the
for his
pace he's
Heisman
at.
candidacy. There you go.
I was going to say that's ACC Player of the Year right there.
All right. At Big Papa RV, what did JMU do offensively versus Chapel Hill College that we can take advantage of? And like I said, me and Brian were sitting there watching it, and I think me and Brian talked about it. We basically noticed right off was the short passes they were running, and they were wide open. Guys were just absolutely wide open, and Duke has done this all year. Duke will drop Malik back quickly and throw the ball out to whoever, whether it be Jordan Moore, Eli, or whoever, and get 8-10 yards down the field. And JMU was doing that quite a bit. Now their quarterback was a little bit more mobile, I will say. Last time I saw Malik run, he looked a little bit like a baby deer, but that's okay. That's okay too. What do you think, Brian? I know we sat there and watched it.
And that's what we talked about. You're exactly right, because I keep bringing up the UConn game when they ran that RPO one time, and nobody even sniffed at Malik because they knew he was going to hand that ball off. And I don't know if it was Peyton or Starr, but they gobbled him up in the backfield. JMU's quarterback is more dual threat from what we saw. He actually was able to open up the opportunities for the passing game because of the RPO. The slant routes were killing the secondary. And there was a lot of miscommunication on UNC's end. Like, you saw the secondary just yapping at each other. It was almost like, whose assignment was this? Because, again, they gave up 388 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. UNC did, against a G5 school. Again, James Madison is not FCS anymore, folks. They are a G5 school in the Sun Belt. I think it's the Sun Belt. And, I just think if I'm Manny Diaz, I'm watching that game over and trying to find ways to incorporate it into the offense, or Coach Brewer, or whoever. Scott, you were wanting to say something?
Yes, to the Sun Belt, and quarterback, running back, 99 yards for the quarterback and 2 touchdowns rushing against Carolina, plus the 388 and 5 touchdowns, and he missed 11 passes. He was 22 of 33 for 388 and 5. So, yeah, not too bad.
That's a pretty good game, I'd say. So,
and don't forget the onside kick. That was pretty epic too.
And they had a block punt that led to a touchdown.
Yeah,
and so did UNC. That was crazy too. It was a weird game overall.
That game was definitely strange.
I will say that, Jimmy, I know you're about to move on. I will say, if there's any Duke fans out there, and there are, that believe that Duke's been like sandbagging and not showing all their hands, and maybe then this is the game. If Duke's been sandbagging and Malik really does get out and scamper some, you're going to see it this game. This week is going to show it, and we'll see what happens.
Malik's going to have 125 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, along with 330 yards passing and 3 more touchdowns.
And then Jamie will be giving him the helmet sticker for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and he will be my new guy. Like that would be it. Like, I would be comparing him to Cam Newton then. At the Duke of QP, we have a run game now, and he says, I take back everything I said about Star Thomas earlier in the year. Is UNC the game where the run sets up the pass game? He points out that not only did UNC give up so much in the air, but like Scott talked about with the QB 99 yards on the ground, they gave up 223 yards on the ground to JMU. So is this the start? Is this the Star Thomas legacy game?
Whoa, what's the other comment he made? You got to go both of them. He didn't just end with that, Jamie. What else did he say? Well, come on.
Okay. All right, here we go. Also, can we finally get I'm just wanting to fly. Can we finally get a Bull City themed mechanical bull in our new entertainment area so ladies can go for a ride on our deck?
Oh, Duke, thank you so much.
Oh, boy.
Always good for that. I don't even remember
Incredible.
what the question was. What was the question?
It was
Will the
about
run
their
game?
defense.
It was
about
the
their
running
defense.
game.
Will the run game open up the passing game more? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think this could be, a huge game for Star, or is Jaquez going to be back? I mean,
That's what I was going to say. Is
Yeah.
Jaquez back? Because if Jaquez is back, then you have a three-headed monster in the backfield. So that may be a plus for Duke also. And, his legs are going to be fresh, and he's going to be ready to play if he is.
Star-
Well, and it's
Star
being
looked great.
reported. It's being reported earlier today, that Rucker is not playing this Saturday as well, and so that is major for UNC's defense. I mean, one of the best defensive ends in the country, and so he from what has been reported, he's out for Saturday, and so I think that feeds into this conversation a little bit. I think Duke can have some success on the ground for sure.
All right. I think this next question is basically directed right at Scott. I think Scott might can rant on this, because at Galanor Capital, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right once again. Is there anything we can do to make sure Jeff Flanagan is not the referee next week? Scott, got anything to say about that?
To
And
my
now
knowledge-
church is in session with preacher Scott Medlin.
Well, to my knowledge, Jeff Flannery is no longer employed by the All Coast Conference, going AKA Atlantic Coast Conference. So I'm going to be honest with you. The biggest thing we need to worry about is that we don't get a Riley Johnson crew who basically just every play is. They're like Oprah out there.
They're swatting
giving away
flies?
flags. No, they're giving away flags every play. No, the swatting flies is over on where you live at. But honestly, something's going to happen. You know it is. It always happens. Jim Phillips is probably going to be there, knowing him, and he's going to do, the Buffalo Wild Wings thing, and he's going to hit a button, and whoever the referee is, and it doesn't really matter who it is because he's going to suck whoever it is anyway. But whoever it is, he's going to throw a flag at the most inopportune time for the most dumb play you've ever seen in your life. And it'll be something that nobody in the stands will see but the one referee on the field, and he won't even know what the heck he's talking about. And the TV camera won't get it, and it'll be something stupid, and it'll cost Duke 15 yards somehow, because that's what they do every stinking time when they play Duke Carolina. A referee finds a way to do something stupid. Or we're going to go to the replay officials. Oh, yes, the replay officials. Let's go ask him. I think I saw the ball hit the ground, but I'm not really sure. But I know the Duke guy had the ball, so I really think it should be Carolina ball because it hit the ground. So, yeah, anyway. I think that's what you were looking for, right? As an answer.
Because he lives.
If you remember, Duke fans, 2 years ago, there was a chop block penalty called in the fourth quarter, and then an illegal motion or a illegal shift or something that was called that Coach Elko said both of them were ridiculous calls. And then last year, as Scott was mentioning, 10 feet in front of Brian and myself there in Kenan Stadium, Josh Pickett is on the ground holding the football with his back on the ground with the wide receiver laying on top of him. And they say that the wide receiver had possession of the football, which goes against 100% logic and how football is supposed to be called. And so, yeah, could we have won both of those games in spite of those calls? Absolutely. Are we blaming the officials for losing the football games? No, we're not. But at the end of the day, the last 2 years have been very unfortunate breaks for Duke.
One thing that I can say for certain is that on Saturday afternoon in Wallace Wade, Scott Medlin will be yelling at the officials and be calling them by their names, their full names. There will be a lot of yelling.
Hey, I've got 2 weeks worth of pent-up frustration where I've not been at a live football game. So you better doggone believe I'm going to yell at somebody, and I don't give a crap who it is. And if you're wearing that ugly light blue, you may be the lucky one. So don't sit close to me.
Hey, just be careful. There's going to be children present. All right. I don't want them to be looking at me going, "What did Uncle Scott just say?"
Okay,
Oh,
hold
Lord.
on, real fast. How many times
might
have
want
you
to talk
guys
to me
heard me
about that.
swear? How many
I
times
mean,
have you
what?
heard me swear?
No, not swearing. It's just I don't want them to look at you going, "Wow, what is Uncle Scott doing?"
Well, it's okay. They'll be used to it. They got you as a dad. What are you talking about?
Scott's going to wear an X Factor jersey.
Just don't yell in their ears.
Just remember, Scott, our friends Troy and our UNC friends will probably be hanging out there, and they are our friends. They are our friends.
Hey, I've got no problem with Carolina fans as long as they don't provoke me.
I'll tell Bethany.
All right. At Kelly Rowe 910, our guy from Wilmington. Any cause for concern on Duke's third down conversion rate? Any thoughts as to why it's so bad? And I have some thoughts. And y'all may have the same thoughts, but I was looking at this and I'm like, well, how many times have we been in third and short, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and we chunked the daggone ball down the field? Like, I don't get that at all. Line up and run the football. I'm not even asking Malik to run because I just don't think at this point that's really in his arsenal, unless, like Josh said, we've withheld it for 4 weeks and we're going to unleash the beast on Saturday. But I just don't understand chunking the ball deep on 3rd and short unless you're planning to go for it on 4th and 1. Then okay, but I mean it'd be better to maybe chunk the ball deep on 2nd and short. But that's just me. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Jamie, to piggyback on what you're saying, not just in 3rd and short. What I'd like to see is when you're around midfield and it's 3rd and 5, between 3rd and 5 and say 3rd and 8, I would like to see Duke running the football, knowing that we're going to go for it on 4th down, and like let's get 3 or 4 yards here and then set up a 4th and 3. Like I like that sort of mentality. And then when you're at 4th and 3, everything is open, right? The tight end out that they run a Nicky for those short yardage plays, that's open. Your wide receiver screens to, your Eli's, your John Tavis, Robertson type plays are out there. And then, of course, your slants to Joe Mo and Samir and those types of guys are there. So I do like that. And who knows? At the end of the day, I can assure you that this week that Coach Brewer is putting everything out there. Like there will be nothing in the arsenal that is not shown this Saturday.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't really have a problem with what we've seen from the offense. I don't know. What was I going to say? Yeah.
Next question.
Next question. I haven't had a problem really too much what we've seen from the offense. We've moved the ball. Should we have scored more points in the first 3 games before Middle Tennessee State? Yes, but
And one thing we forgot to mention in our wrap up of Middle Tennessee, and then you go to the next question. Shout out Star Thomas, 2 touchdowns, first 2 in the Duke uniform. Shout out Peyton Jones, first touchdown of the year, and Nikki Dalmolin. Lord have mercy, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches. That's a stat line right there.
man, he looks like an NFL tight end to me. Like, I mean, he can play on Sundays. All right, last question, and then we'll move on. Lane Phipps, and I just saw the chat. What y'all are laughing at, and I can't even. Jeez. Now I looked at the chat. I gotta block that out. Let's see. Lane Phipps, after seeing such contrasting performances between Duke and Chapel Hill College, how do you guys think this will affect the attendance ratios for the upcoming game?
Oh, breaking news, Mr. Holt. Breaking news. As we were recording this on Monday night, a tweet went out from Duke football. Students' tickets sold out. Devil's Deck sold out. The rest of the tickets, limited supply remaining. I happen to know that there are very few tickets remaining as of Monday night recording.
General admission is sold out as of, from Duke's website. The seats, I think it's sections like what is it? Where the tower is that higher or lower numbers? Higher numbers, right?
Higher numbers, yes.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's like 21 to the right is still open, but all of general admin is grayed out, so there's no more GA seats. So
if you're a Duke fan and you want another Duke fan to go to the game and you're not going to use your tickets, please DM us. We will get them to a Duke fan to come to a game. And so if you have an extra ticket or 2 or 4 or 5 that you want to get rid of, we will not sell them for you. Honestly, you got to do that on your own. But if you want to just give them to a Duke fan, we'll make sure they get to a Duke fan because we have tons of people asking for tickets.
I will say there's going to be, no matter what, there's going to be a lot of that ugly shade of blue in Wallace Wade. But I remember 2 years ago, we were really, really worried about the ratio, like what Lane had said in the question. We were worried about the ratio, but I felt like it ended up being about 60-40 Duke at Wallace Wade that night, which it was a great crowd.
Yeah, that's what we said. That's what we had said because it was similar in the Notre Dame game. Even we felt like there maybe even been more Duke fans last year at Notre Dame. I know we're talking about 2 years ago with UNC, but yeah, I believe we'll still be around that 60-65% Duke, especially after this past Saturday.
And I was going to say, and with that, with some of the comments I've seen on X from UNC fans, some have given up, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but it's just you have these lifelong fans who this is the second iteration of Mac is back, but they're just done with it, so they might not be showing up now. Who knows? And you're muted. There you go.
Jamie, I appreciate you taking care of the questions for us. That's brought to you by our Iron D sponsor. It's El Rodeo Mexican Restaurant. There we go. El Rodeo Mexican Restaurant. Boom, boom, boom. North Duke Street in Durham. They have excellent food, drinks, atmosphere. They're about 10 minutes from campus. If you need a place to go after the Duke Carolina game this Saturday, that's a good spot to hit up. I go to El Rodeo at least once a week. I'm not going to lie. My family, we're VIPs there. So if you're there, we might be there. And it's become our Sunday lunch spot and has been for many years. But they have great drinks, great food. They have a spot for you and your family if you have a larger party to sit in a private room. Just let them know that you listen to the Section 17 podcast when you go. And once again, we appreciate our friends at El Rodeo Mexican Restaurant, the North Duke Street location. We do want to remind you, if you are watching on YouTube, to make sure you have subscribed. Share this with a friend that's a Duke fan. They subscribe, they comment, whatever it may be. Brian's about to give you some more instructions here in a second on what you can do with YouTube. You can find us on X, TikTok, and Instagram at Duke FB Talk. You can find us on Facebook by searching for our group, Duke Football Talk. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and or a review. And we really, really do appreciate that. I'm going to look up very quickly and see if we've gotten any more 5-star ratings and reviews since last week. And I believe we have. We have one. It's from a guy by the name of Nate Mill. I think Jamie knows him. I have been meaning to write you guys a review, so here I am. You guys do a great job on the podcast, giving your opinions and keeping it very entertaining, especially Jamie, lowercase LOL. Keep up the good work. Go Duke.
Hey, I know that guy.
Jamie knows that guy.
I'm not saying I paid him to say that, but like,
Jamie, you know half of Durham. That's all I'm going to say.
That's right. Well, listen, before we get to our giveaway, it's Scott. It's your turn, man. We're in week 5 of the season. Our rivals are coming up. Now, this has not historically been rivalry week, so I don't think we have anything rivalry related. But, Scott, it's This Week in Blue Devil History, and why don't you go ahead and take it away?
All right, so we're going to go back to September 26, 2015. In the only Duke home game that I have missed in a really long time before the UConn game 2 weeks ago this year. Duke defeated number 20 Georgia Tech 34-20. Thomas Sirk led the Blue Devils to the victory with 17 of 25 passing, 114 yards and a touchdown. He also had 13 rushes for 52 yards. Shaquille Powell had 14 rushes for 88 yards and 3 touchdowns. Max McCaffrey, the healthy McCaffrey that played football every week and's not on the IR, had 4 receptions for 48 yards. And then Jeremy Cash, our favorite guy, had led Duke with 12 tackles. And in the third quarter, Mr. Kick Return himself, Devon Edwards, had a 100-yard kickoff return to put the Blue Devils up 2 scores. Will Mundy that day punted a few too many times, but had a great day, had 317 yards of punting. And rumor has it that to this day still Paul Johnson is trying to chop block somebody on the golf course before every round of golf to make sure that he wins. And that's this week in Duke Blue Devil history.
Man, that was a fun team. Like
full
of electric players, right? I mean, gracious.
You just went through like a Duke Hall of Fame right there, talking about those players. I mean, or favorites at least. Like Cirque's a great dude. Shout out, by the way, his wife going through some health issues right now. So prayers to Tanner and to Thomas right now. But Cirque was awesome. That was the year that Duke went to Virginia Tech and did the 4 overtime win. Shaq Powell, another great storyline. Folks remember his story running back for Duke. Anyway, that was really cool. Really, really cool.
That was the year that Duke went up north to New York and played a certain team from Indiana and won their first bowl game since 1994. And the kick was still no good. The one for Indiana, right. That was. Ours was.
Right. That's right. No, that's great. That is great. Well, I appreciate you doing that, Scott, and bringing up some good memories and being accurate with those memories. Brian's got a little special thing for us. We've already mentioned our sponsor. We'll throw them back up here. But Home Field Apparel has become a Hellraiser sponsor this year. And Brian's got a little giveaway. He's going to tell you what it is, probably show you what it is.
Yeah.
And then tell you how you can win it.
Yeah, so if you're listening in your car or at your home, stop what you're doing. Try to find us on YouTube, whether it be your phone or your desktop, because I'm going to show you on the YouTube video what it is. So, forgive me, football gods, for I have sinned, but you know what? We're doing a giveaway, so we can make an exception. Here it is. This is an official Home Field hat with some weird ball, and it looks like a net. I don't know what this is, guys. Maybe you can help me. I've never seen this before. There we go. I don't know what that is. But anyway, so this is
field hockey.
Field hockey? I was going to say badminton. I don't know.
It could be badminton, yes.
Okay. But anyway, all jokes aside, this comes from Home Field. And as you can see, there's their logo right now, or right there. So this is what you've got to do. Stop what you're doing right now. Press pause if you're watching us. You need to like this video, and you have to comment. Now, the comment has to be specific. You have to give one of your favorite memories from the Duke and UNC football rivalry. I don't want to see where Austin Rivers hit a shot over what's-his-face from UNC in the Dean Dome and Duke upset UNC. I don't want that. I want your favorite Duke UNC Victory Bell football memory. I'll give you one right now. My personal favorite was the 1994 game. Yes, Duke lost, but that is where I got one of my sweatbands from Corey Thomas after the game. Josh knows all about that. He got some as well from Corey that year. So again, like the video and comment your favorite memory from the Duke and UNC Victory Bowl series, and then we will pick a winner. I tell you what, we'll pick a winner next Monday night when we do our recording for the Georgia Tech game. So again, thank you to Home Field, and I will say there will be at least one more giveaway from them that I'm going to do. I don't know when it's going to be, but be on the lookout.
And shout out once again to our Hellraiser sponsor, Home Field Apparel, homefieldapparel.com. Use code section 17 at checkout and get 15% off your first order. Well, we don't like them. We hate them. We got a few friends that we like. We got some family we tolerate. You know, but it's Chapel Hill College week. It's hate week. There's a lot of smack talk that goes on. A lot of these players played high school football together. A lot of these guys know each other. It hasn't happened yet, but potentially there'll be a transfer that leaves one of the schools and goes to the other school at some point in time, the way the current landscape is. It's Duke and it's Chapel Hill College. Brian Kennedy, bring us the tale of the tape. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Josh. Tell the tape for Chapel Hill College. one of Duke's most hated rivals. Last year, UNC went 8-5 and went to the Duke's Mayo Bowl, where they lost to West Virginia 30-10. Go Mountaineers. Last week, UNC was defeated by JMU 70-50. No, we're not talking basketball, and they are currently 3-1 overall. Head coach Mac Brown's in his 16th season of coaching UNC and has an overall coaching record of 285, 150, and 1. He is 14-12 in bowl games and has won one national title with the Texas Longhorns. Now, overall, this is the 110th meeting all time between Duke and UNC, with UNC unfortunately leading the series matchup on Duke 64-41. There are actually 4 ties in the series as well. The first ever meeting between Duke and UNC was in 1888 on Thanksgiving Day at the Athletic Park in Raleigh, where Duke, then Trinity College, defeated the Tar Heels 16-0. The two schools would play 6 more times between 1889 and 1894 before the series would go dormant in 1895 after then Trinity College president John Kilgo banned football because it was deemed, quote, too dangerous for the athletes. After a 27-year hiatus, the rivalry would be reignited in 1922 when UNC would defeat Duke 20-0 in Chapel Hill. Since 1922, Duke and UNC have played each other every year. Now, this is only the second time ever that Duke and Carolina have played in the month of September. The other time was on September 17th, 2017. And then last year, as we stated earlier, Duke was defeated by UNC 47-45 in Kenan Stadium. UNC is currently on a 5-game winning streak in the series. This is the longest winning streak for the Tar Heels since they won 8 straight from 2004 to 2011. The last time Duke defeated UNC was in 2018 when Duke defeated UNC 42-35 in Wallace Wade in what we love to call the handshake game. Now it's time for Did You Know? Duke and UNC have been battling for the Victory Bell for over 75 years. The inspiration for the bell came in 1948 after the head male cheerleaders for each school, Norman Spears from UNC and Loring Jones from Duke, agreed that the teams should be battling for something tangible. Before their collaboration, the only proof of a rivalry trophy between Duke and UNC is from a photo from the 1937 game where the winning team received a golden goalpost trophy. Spear and Jones wanted a trophy that would be a symbolic way to foster more friendly relations between the two schools. Inspired by other rivalry trophies at the time, Loring and Jones came up with the idea of a Victory Bell. The bell was founded by Jones and taken off an old Southern Railway train, and Spears had his engineering drawing professor come up with the base design to hold the bell. The bell itself would make its debut on November 20th, 1948 at Kenan Stadium, where then number 5 ranked UNC would defeat Duke 20-0 and take first possession of the bell. Duke's first ever possession of the Victory Bell took place after the 1950 matchup when they defeated UNC 7-0 at Kenan Stadium. That would be the start of Duke's longest winning streak in the series to date against UNC, as the Blue Devils would win 7 straight matchups over the Tar Heels. UNC has won or kept the bell, however, in 49 of the 75 times the two teams have played. A newer tradition for the Victory Bell started back in 2004 when UNC spray painted the bell's base after they defeated Duke in Durham and took back possession of the bell. Since then, if a team takes back possession of the bell, they spray paint their school colors on the base until the two teams meet the following season. That was the tale of the tape for Chapel Hill College. Josh?
All right, it is that week. Duke fans, you got to show up, period. If you're not going, send us tickets. We'll get them to Duke fans. You got to be there. This is an opportunity Coach Diaz has to do what hasn't been done in 5 years. And so that would go through the prior 3 seasons under Coach Cutcliffe and the last 2 under Coach Elko. Some great seasons, a couple of great seasons in those 5 years, but unfortunately coming short in the rivalry game. And so we hope that this year's game is a little bit different. And so make sure you are there. We posted a clip of the Victory Bell getting rung. I believe that was from the 2012 season. There's been some other stuff floating around. If you were there in the 2012 season, that was the Jamison Crowder catch from Sean Renfrey. I don't know if there's been a more electric Wallace Wade Stadium than that night. The place was rocking, and so anyway, don't miss it. Be there. If you can't be there, make sure you get your tickets to somebody who can. And so it's that time, though. We're gonna get our winners from last week, who won the predictions. We'll hear the lines from Brian, and then we'll tell you what we think is going to take place this Saturday at Wallace Wade Stadium. Brian.
All right, Josh. On Facebook, Scott Colley, he was very close. He predicted Duke to win 45-13. So he got Duke's score on the nose. On Instagram, Timothy Parton, he was at the game with us, wasn't he?
Shout out, sat on our row. Sat on the row with us. Yep.
No, we did not give him any insider information. He won the predictions on Instagram. He predicted Duke to win 41-20. And then on X and Twitter, Timothy Gonzalez, he is a former winner as well from last season. He predicted Duke to win 42-17. All three of you have already been reached out to by Scott. So congratulations on winning your free Section 17 shirt. Now, as far as this weekend, 4 o'clock, ESPN2, Wallace Wade Stadium. The line's gone down a little bit, fellas. Duke is now only a 2.5-point favorite over Chapel Hill College. The over-under has not changed, though. It is still 55.5 points. I'm unmuted. I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. I predicted Duke would, I believe, start at least 6-0 this season. I'm not changing my ways. This team has all the momentum right now with their performance against Middle Tennessee State. Even with everything Mac said in his press conference, how he was misunderstood, he just gets too emotional. He might have said the wrong things. People, he misspoke, basically. I still think there's some chinks in the armor, and I think this is the time to pounce on the Tar Heels. So I've got Duke winning this one 38-28. I think the score is going to be closer than what the game actually shows. Now, as far as the combo, if you haven't been on social media today, if you noticed, the grounds crew posted a photo, and in the end zone was a little friend of mine that hasn't been seen all season long. Well, he was seen last week on the helmets. The Hellraisers back on the field, not at the 35s, in the end zones. Shout out to the grounds crew for doing that. The Hellraiser's going to stay. I just don't know what color Hellraiser. I've been leaning towards all blue. We haven't seen the white Hellraiser since 2021. I think this would be the perfect game to break out the blue Hellraisers for the first time since the handshake game. But knowing the players, and Manny told us this in the offseason in the Get to Know You pod, the players ultimately decide what the team wears. I don't see them changing. It's going to be a blackout. With it being a 4 o'clock game, it's not under the lights still. The team loves it. All black with the Hellraiser, 38-28 Duke. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. At least this year we're back in the friendly confines of Wallace Wade Stadium and not that shithole 8 miles down the road, Keenan Stadium. What a dump.
With the tiny wrinkly deck.
Yeah, with the tiny wrinkly deck. Rumor is James Madison just scored another touchdown. They're still scoring. Good Lord. What a
the crazy thing is, Jamie, it's Monday night. There's still the same amount of people in the stands as Saturday.
Hey, don't ever mess with our 4th president of the United States. You'll find out.
Good Lord, what a shitty stadium. So we're back in Wallace Wade. I agree with Brian on the uniforms, and I also I want a blue out. Like, that's what I want. I think, in all seriousness, getting back to Duke UNC, I would love a blue versus blue. I'd love to see Carolina out there in their light blue. I'd love to see Duke out there in their Duke blue. But I think if it's up to the players, like which we've heard, I'm going blackout as well with the Hellraiser. My score, I think it's going to be super close. I don't think there's any way this is a blowout. While I would love a blowout, and we would be going crazy in the stands if Duke was blowing Carolina out. I just don't see it. I'm going to go Duke 31, Carolina 27. Duke 31, and I'm sorry, Chapel Hill College 27. Go to hell, Carolina.
All right, Scott. I was gonna wait on you, man. Dang it.
Yeah, you were having the mute problems there.
Yeah, well, I thought I was trying to let Scott go. That's all right. It's all good. I did want to remind people before I get my picks, we are going to be in lot B3 tailgating this week. And it's going to be an epic tailgate. As you know, we've been tailgating with Hard Hat guys now for a couple of years. Shout out to Hard Hat guys. We'll be up there with them. They're moving on up to B3. Bayou Blue Devil, our friend Ben Thomason, he'll be there. And then Rocket Man is going to be there. If you've never seen Rocket Man in his setup, you got to come to B3.
Rocket Man, burn it out of the fuse up here alone. Paul Schaefer, by the way, that's his name. And no, he did not lead the band for David Letterman.
That's right. But he's putting together a pretty incredible menu. And so we'll be up there all day. I believe the Hard Hat guys may be throwing some breakfast on the grill early, and then there'll be lunch there. And so if you come, everyone is welcome. Let me reiterate. Everyone is welcome. Bring a side or bring something to drink. BYOB there as well. But everyone's welcome, and we just want you to come and hang out. We want there to be like a epicenter for you to come in the B lot to come tailgate. So be there. My uniform combo, I agree with the guys. The players are going to get to choose. We have heard from player after player over the years that the blackout Hellraiser is their favorite. I think you see it this week. I believe similarly to Jamie, I think this is going to be a close game. I believe it could get a little bit high scoring. I'm going to say the Duke wins this game 41-35. 41-35. Blue Devils, good guys. Scott.
All right. Well, it's that time again, boys and girls. Time for Chapel Hill College to make that 8-mile trip. Look, rumor has it there'll be some pudding cups there for that long walk from Mac back and forth a couple times. He'll have to make it so he won't be able to cry so much in the postgame after he gets his butt handed to him. Muffy, Buffy, stay in Chapel Hill. We don't need you in Durham. We got no room for you in the inn. Listen, this is an epic opportunity for the Blue Devils to do what they should do. Now, I agree with the guys as far as the uniform is concerned. I really think the Blacks uniforms all the way with the Hellraiser would be great, but I'm going to pick the blue with the blue Hellraiser just to be different. But I really think it's going to be black. I agree with the guys 100%. Let's be honest. I want to say 65-0. I really do, but it ain't happening. Look, they've got a really good running back over there. They've got a really good set of tight ends. They're going to score a couple points on us, I do believe, honestly. But Duke can score. Duke will score, and I think they'll eat that defense alive. I'm going to go a little high on the score because I hope we're going to be having fun up there in section 22-ish. So I'm going to say that we go 45 for the Blue Devils. Let's say 27 for the Tar Heels from Chapel Hill College. Listen, be there, be square, wear the right color blue. Understand that when it's over, Carolina fans, your butt's getting ready to get handed to you. You can go ahead and, in fact, if you want to at halftime, kind of do what you did last Saturday. You can go and hit the road, hit 15-501 and going back to where you belong, because we dang sure don't need you there at the end when you're getting your head handed to you. And the boys are down there ringing it in that beautiful blue, ringing that bell for the first time in years. Ring that bell, ring that bell, ring that bell. Bring it home. Beat Muffy and Buffy. Slap the taste out of them fools from Chapel Hill College. Let's just have a great old night. About 8 o'clock, still be in the stands, enjoying ourselves looking at that scoreboard. And it'd be even better. Hey, if we went up and won 41-0 like Spurrier did over at Chapel Hill that year, that'd be even more fun, wouldn't it, boys and girls? But either way, we're going to win because we're the better team. We have the better coach. And our guy, he's not decrepit, not thinking about quitting every week after he gets his head handed to him. Blue Devils, going to win, be there, come to the tailgate. Let's have fun. Hey, for Carolina fans that are watching, that are our friends, we welcome you. We hope you have a good time. But let's say at the end of the day, you can hit your little road back up to 15-501 with the L and you tail between your legs. Go Blue Devils.
Man, folks, you got that for free. You paid nothing for that. You got that for free. We do want to mention we're gonna bring Scott's gonna be like Santa Claus this Saturday. We're gonna bring some t-shirts to the tailgate. And these are some Section 17 t-shirts. Here's what we're gonna ask you. You can take them. If you'll wear it, you can take it. Now, we will accept donations. We're just putting it out there. We did pay for these shirts. But whatever you want to give us for them, if you want to give us whatever for them, we'll have options there. But we want everybody to get these shirts. We've had them for long enough. It's time to move forward. And so we'll have them there. We'll put them out on the table. You can come get them and take them with you. Wear them that day or take them home, whatever you want to do. And so really, really appreciate it. Duke fans, we got to have you. Got to have you, Duke. This team needs you. These guys need you this Saturday. Brian, we missed anything?
Do they have to sit on Scott's lap to get a shirt? Since he's
They
Santa
do
Claus?
not. He is not. He is not Santa Claus in that way.
Now,
Absolutely
okay.
not.
There's an extra cover charge if you want to do that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. We'll steer clear. We'll steer clear of that one. But I believe we're good. I think you guys have already followed us and liked and shared. Make sure you enter the giveaway for the Home Field Apparel Duke men's blah, 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 hat. We're not going to say it. But make sure you enter the giveaway by commenting your favorite Duke UNC football memory. All right, Brian. I think if everything's taken care of, let's take it home, man.
Everything but this stupid fly. Of course, right at the end. Oh, I think I got him. All right, we'll end it there. No, another great episode in the books. This is our favorite game of the season. If you are a Duke fan, I hope it is for you as well. We hope to see everyone out there. If you follow us, if you're in town, to Scott's point, get a ticket, find a ticket. Don't take a ticket from someone, but try to get out to Wallace Wade Stadium. This team needs your support. This is probably the biggest game of the season, one of the biggest for Manny Diaz and his crew, and as well as this football team. We want the bell back. We want it to stay in Durham for this year and many years to come. But with that being said, for Josh Cox, for Scott Medlin, for Jamie Holt, and producer Tyler Witt, I'm Brian Kennedy. And this has been another episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. And go to hell, Carolina. Go to hell.